Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here. Thanks a lot for the invitation. I'm going to tell you today about work that we've been doing to try to understand how to influence behavior, and I'll warn you ahead of time there are going to be some surprises. This is joint work with John Bashairs at Stanford, James Choi at Yale, Bridget Madrian, who's here today, my colleague at Harvard, and Katie Milkman, who's at Wharton. So we'll be talking about how to use, or how perhaps not to use, peer pressure and social marketing to change behavior. Now, there's a lot of reasons to think that peers are good sources of influence. Peers may have information that we don't have, and peer behavior may reveal social norms. Now, there's a growing interest in using these kinds of peer-based interventions to change behavior. Social norms marketing is basically just telling people what their peers are doing, and this kind of marketing has been effective in a range of domains that have been studied in the academic literature in the last couple decades. So I've listed a set of them here. For example, if you tell people about their relative energy use compared to other people in their neighborhood, they respond in ways that you might expect. People who are using more than their peers, more than their neighbors, cut down their usage a little bit. And there are many examples of that. Now, this kind of intervention is not just used in a bunch of academic studies, it's also been very, very popular on college campuses. Here's an example. 48% of US four-year colleges have used some kind of social marketing campaign. Here's an example from Loyola. Why would I go home sober? 'Cause I can. Most Loyola students, if you can read at the bottom, most Loyola students have 0 to 4 drinks when they party. Presumably, 4 drinks is not that many. We're encouraging low usage of alcohol, and I take it that 4 is good. They should party with me. So it's a very popular method, this peer marketing, this social norms marketing, for trying to change behavior. So we thought, great, we're interested in saving. Can we use this kind of peer effect, this social norms marketing, to try to influence savings behavior? And we had designed a somewhat elaborate study. If you're interested, I'm going to refer you to the paper to see all the different variations on the theme. There are many. But let me tell you about the kind of core analysis that we did in this study. We were targeting employees who were not 401k participants, and our treatment was to randomly expose them to different levels of peer influence. And I'll give you that randomization in a moment, but for now, just imagine that some are getting none, some are getting some, and some are getting a lot of information about their peers. The measured outcome is how the people who are giving this information to subsequently decide to enroll in the 401k plan. Now, in another part of the study, we also looked at people who were already in the plan, and we tried to identify what would lead them to raise their savings rate. I won't be telling you about those results today. I'll refer you to the paper. So here's the letter that, in essence, the target population got, a letter that encourages them to enroll in the 401k plan using a very simplified enrollment tool. The tool here is basically just checking this box right here. It says, yes, I want to receive the full company match. Enroll me in the plan today. We've blanked out the yellow bits, blank out information that would de-anonymize the firm. As usual, our collaborators are anonymous firms. And we certainly keep the subjects, the individual employees, completely anonymous too. So this is the letter that enables you to basically check a box and become enrolled at a 6% contribution rate and having your contributions allocated to the target date fund at this company. Now notice there's an interesting white space here, and I'm sure graphic designers are applauding us. It's great you left so much wonderful white space on this form, but those of you who are social scientists think, aha, something must be happening in that white space, and you're quite right, because some subjects or some of the employees received the form without any material in that white space, and other employees received a form that's identical in every way except, boom, the white space is filled with information about their peers. And to make that information salient, we highlighted it in red, or at least we created a red background and white letters so that that would really jump out. Now let me show you what that text exactly says. Here it is, blown up. Join the 87% of 25 to 29-year-old employees at your company who are already enrolled in the plan. Now, turns out this is a great company to study peer effects because a lot of people at this company are enrolled in the 401k plan. So those who are not enrolled, our target population, really have some powerful peer evidence about what they should be doing or should consider doing. So for example, even among these young employees, 87% are enrolled in the plan. Now, we gave relevant information to everyone who got the form. So if you were in your 30s, you got comparisons to other employees in their 30s. And of course, like other social scientists, like economists in particular, we never ever deceive our subjects. So this information is accurate. We're not making these numbers up. This is the honest-to-goodness enrollment rate at this firm. There are 3 ways that we randomize across the employees at this company. First, some employees receive absolutely no peer information, as I explained a moment ago. Second, some employees receive information about other employees in the same 5-year age bucket as the letter recipient. And finally, some employees receive information about other employees in the same, 10-year age bucket as a letter recipient. So the second randomization is a 10-year age bucket. Let me give you an example of how that works. So consider a 24-year-old employee at this company. Here are the ways that we're going to identify how peer information could affect her behavior. Some of the 24-year-olds will randomly be chosen to receive no information about their peers. That's A. Some of the employees will be randomly chosen to receive information about other employees aged 20 to 29. Again, we're looking at a 24-year-old illustrative employee here. So in this case, the other employees happen to have an 82% rate of enrollment. Then there's a third condition. Some employees aged 24 will be randomly assigned to receive peer information about other employees aged 20 to 24 who happen to have a 77% rate of enrollment. So here we're seeing some interesting variation. In every case, we're giving the information that is accurate and correct, but you can see because we're making comparisons to different alternative groups, the information varies. In this case, they're seeing a 77% peer rate. In this case, they're seeing an 82% peer rate. So we're getting random variation in peer information while still being honest in the information that we're sharing with these employees. So we can compare people in condition A to condition B, in condition A to condition C. And we can also compare condition B versus condition C to see how differing peer comparisons affect subsequent behavior. Now, there's a third or a fourth category of variation that we also exploit in this study. We can also compare the 24-year-old who's seeing information about people aged 20 to 24 to someone who's, say, 1 day older, 25, who's seeing information comparing people aged 25 to 29. And they'll see very different peer comparisons because those aged 20 to 24 have a 77% enrollment rate, and those aged 25 to 29 have an 87% enrollment rate. So we can compare people in condition C, the 24-year-old, to those in condition D, the 25-year-old. All this variation is enabling us to identify peer effects, and it's all, in some sense, randomized variation. We're randomizing people into these different buckets. Of course, we don't randomize your age, so the variation between C and D is both somewhat randomized and somewhat organic. So what do we see? I'm going to show you some of the results. Again, not enough time to talk about the blizzard of different analyses. First, let's think about just exposing people to peer information, and let's first think about unionized employees at this company. It's about 1/5 of the employee pool at the company. Boom. Devastating result. This is the wrong sign. Those who did not get the peer information had a 9.9% likelihood of enrolling in the next 2 months. Those who did get the peer information had a 6.5% enrolling in the next 6.5% likelihood of enrolling in the next 2 months. The peer information backfired. It actually turned off these union employees. A negative 3.4% differential as a consequence of trying to intervene by telling them about the good behavior of the other employees at the company. Now, it turns out that the non-unionized employees, who happen to be the majority of workers at this firm, did respond the way we had anticipated. So the non-unionized employees said, yeah, great. With peer information, I can see Almost everyone else is doing the right thing at this company. They're in the plan. And it raised their likelihood of joining. So over the next 2 months, the likelihood of enrolling was 3% among those who received the peer information and only 0.7% among those who did not receive the peer information. Though this effect is somewhat weak, that's a t-stat there for those of you who care, and so it's not a very robust statistical effect, but it is an effect in the right direction. Now, that first set of analyses told us that the unionized workers were responding perversely to peer information, and the non-unionized workers were responding in the natural way. We have another way of evaluating the hypothesis, because we have so many different ways of randomization in this study. And this second way is going to tell the exact same story, even though it's a completely different kind of randomization. So we're going to see robust properties emerging here. What are we learning here? Well, here we're studying people who got peer information, but we're studying variation in the properties of the comparison group. Was the comparison group an aggressive group that had a high rate of enrollment, or was the comparison group a less aggressive group that had a low rate of enrollment? How does variation in the enrollment rate of the comparison group affect my likelihood of enrolling if I'm the letter recipient? Let's see again the break across union and non-unionized workers. For union workers, a 10 percentage point increase in the participation rate of the comparison group, the group that we're comparing them to in the letter, reduces enrollment likelihood by 17.4%. So again, we see the exact same story emerging from a different source of variation. The higher your comparison group's performance, the less likely you are to enroll if you're a union worker. Now let's go to the second set of results for the non-unionized workers. A 10 percentage point increase in the participation rate of the comparison group increases your enrollment likelihood by 11.5%. These are both significant at the 5% level, meaning these are both robust results. So what are we learning here? Same exact stories emerging. Perverse effects for the unionized workers. The better the peer information, the less likely you are to enroll. And standard effects, expected effects, for the non-unionized workers. Now, what's going on? Boy, this is interesting to us. We don't know. But let me tell you about some speculation that's supported by our evidence, but by no means at this point crystal clear. The union members, we think, were discouraged and demotivated by this very successful peer information. Moreover, the union members may distrust communications coming from the firm. They may be looking for ulterior motives. So we're doing more research now at different companies to try to figure out how information about your peers works and doesn't work depending upon the nature of the identity of the message. So let me wrap up. Main results. For non-union workers, enrollment increases when peer information is provided, and enrollment increases with the participation rate in the comparison group. Standard results, they go in the right direction. 3 cheers for behavioral science. For union workers, surprise, surprise, disaster. Enrollment decreases when peer information is given, at least at this company, and enrollment decreases with the participation rate in the comparison group. Perverse effects. Our effort to do the right thing didn't pan out. Conclusion, social marketing can backfire for certain subgroups, and we've got to be very careful when designing these interventions going forward. Thank you very much.